all acts of love and pleasure are her rituals, chants The Charge of the Goddess by Doreen Valiente. But does that apply to kink and more specifically to BDSM practices as well? Stay tuned to learn more about BDSM, magic, altered states, and paganism. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Angela Puca and welcome to my symposium. I'm a PhD and a university lecturer, and this is your online resource for the academic study of magic, paganism, shamanism, esotericism, and all things occult. BDSM is an acronym variously interpreted around concepts such as bondage, domination, submission, sadism, and masochism. It can be described as consensual power play, often yet not necessarily sexual. We have already covered BDSM as sacred kink in a previous episode and discussed it as a form of religion in an interview with Dr. Alison Robertson. So make sure to check those out in the info box and in the cards in case you're interested and want to have some background information on the topic. In this episode, we will focus more specifically on the relation between BDSM and paganism. It is indeed interesting to notice that a few studies have shown a statistically relevant difference between people practicing so-called New Age spirituality and people practicing paganism and Wicca. It appears that those into New Age spirituality have much less in common with the BDSM subculture than do pagans. The pagan belief system that sees the divine imbued in nature and its sensual experiences to the point where all acts of love and pleasure may honor the goddess has fostered a subculture that is generally accepting of different alternative sexualities, including BDSM. Pagans are more, we would say now, sex positive and open or often personally engaged in various non-normative ways of experiencing sexuality and romantic relationships. While researchers have explored spiritual aspects of sadomasochism across religious affiliations, there exists a hub within the contemporary pagan movement. As contemporary pagans have espoused alternative sexual practices such as BDSM, polyamory, homosexuality, bisexuality, pansexuality, and all forms of non-normative sexuality as sacred practices. However, public pagan rituals almost never include sexual practices, yet they often employ deliberate sexual symbols and vocabulary to ritualistically express a religious engagement that celebrates as sacred the carnal aspects of life. Interesting to notice that despite its ideological support for alternative sexualities, paganism was actually quite slow to drop many ritual and ideological trappings of heteronormativity. As a result, there was a tension between that more conservative strand of sexual practice and a broad dogmatic support for all kinds of sexuality. This tension has created a gap in the pagan community that the BDSM subculture has started to fill. As Mueller explains, pagan feminism has shown diverging reactions to BDSM, from pro-kink, anti-kink, and ambivalent on the matter. Feminist objections to BDSM have employed similar critiques to the ones often moved to pornography. Barrett Starhawk and Zell Ravenhart suggested that BDSM eroticizes violence and therefore is or may be a symptom of patriarchal misogyny. Others have held that kink may be a woman's choice and that kinky women should have the freedom to pursue their own sexual fantasies and desires without admonishment from the pagan religious community. For the latter, all acts of love and pleasure most certainly include consensual BDSM. In Wicca, submission to pain is explored as initiatory ordeal, purification and opportunity for transcendence, as well as arousal, sensation, and energy generation. The use of scourge in Wicca is one of the traditional 8 paths of power, the 8 ways of performing magic, and represents religious, spiritual, and magical use of the body that introduces pain as arousal and transcendence. The body is here elevated to a site of spiritual experience and countered through intense ritual praxis within a wider ritual context. The scourge is also used by Wiccans to encounter their shadow selves, to face fears, pain, and the forces of primordial chaos. As scholar Joe Person highlights, the traces that the scourge leaves behind on the body are marks both of an encounter with the infinite and of an experience of self-transformation. Jack Rinella, Congregation Church pastor and Sacred Kink educator, explains that true spirituality needs to be holistic, a spirituality of the body as well as of the soul. BDSM works in this context as embodied, lived religion. BDSM scenes, therefore, act as rituals, sometimes unintentionally and sometimes intentionally structured as a religious practice. BDSM is also seen here as spiritual expression because it taps into 3 of the most primal human forces: pain, power, and often sex. Religious ecstasy and sexual orgasm present, in fact, similarities. Rinella teaches that understanding the physical aspects of ecstasy is the first step in understanding the emotional, spiritual, and theological aspects of the same, albeit differently labeled, experience. Pain unmakes the profane word with its physical attachments and leads the mystic away from the body to experience self-transcendence. Alicia Charles Davalon continues to illustrate what practitioners report, tackling how Raven Caldera articulates pain as a magical or ritual technique. It can be indeed seen as such through a few categories. Pain to achieve an altered state via brain chemistry in which one can connect with the universe. Pain to create energy for the top to work with. Pain to bring people back in touch with their bodies. Pain as a sacrifice, usually to a divine power who appreciates such things. Pain as strength ordeal, to build courage and self-worth by enduring agonizing things. And pain as emotional catharsis in order to tap into deep negative feelings to expunge them. Charles Davalon also proposes an analysis of BDSM scenes as rituals using Frederick Bird's characteristic features of ritual. Bird posits 2 main features of ritual: ritual as drama and ritual as medium of communication. Both of these features are found in BDSM practices as well as in paganism or pagan rituals. When ritual is lived as drama, the person acts ritually, using oral or written scripts that detail what to say, the gestures, and positions, to play the roles of the characters required by their script. Sometimes these rituals are a form of reenactment of historical or mythological events. A ritual, indeed, involves make-believe, as during rituals people pretend to be the characters required by the mythological enactment. For the time being, they suspend the set of beliefs that direct non-ritual behavior. Doing this repeatedly will reinforce and make real the beliefs that correspond to these acts, whether they appeal to a deity, an archetype, or an idealized objective such as enlightenment or salvation. Sexuality researcher Dulcinea Pitagora says there are 2 main themes regarding how individuals may choose to give meaning to their BDSM scenes, including the administration of pain in order to achieve a transcendent or altered state of consciousness, and an effort towards developing self-awareness via the forming and enacting of sexual scripts. Sexual scripts become a method for achieving an altered state of consciousness to bring about a heightened awareness of the self. The process of verbal formation and enacting of sexual scripts is also a means for accessing subspace or top space by encouraging a heightened awareness of the self that could in turn further expansion and evolution of an individual's identity. To conclude, paganism is a religious movement that sees the divine as immanent, meaning existing and permeating the material world. As a consequence, the body and the physical sensations are sacred and can help the practitioner connect with the divine. Differently from other religions that see the body as a source of sin and somewhat in opposition to spiritual endeavors, paganism celebrates and re-enchants the spiritual power carried by our bodies. This results in seeing all strong bodily sensations as potentially conducive to some form of spiritual purpose, whether it be entering an altered state of consciousness, or lessening the grasp of the ego, or contacting the divine in one of its forms. BDSM is potentially quite useful in this respect as it explores the avenues whereby bodily sensations can lead someone through a total immersion in the body beyond the body, as well as teaching, perhaps alchemically, how to transmute the pain and sorrows unavoidable in life into ecstatic pleasure and spiritual bliss. This is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like my content and want me to keep the academic fun going, please consider supporting my work with a one-off PayPal donation by joining memberships or my inner symposium on Patreon, where you will get access to our Discord server, monthly lectures, and lots of other perks depending on your chosen tier. And if you did like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell so that you will never miss a new upload from me, and as always, stay tuned for all the academic fun. Bye for now.